DoorDash delivery. Jenny had been dashing for DoorDash for a few months. It was her side hustle, a way to make ends meet while she saved up for nursing school. She was always cheerful, always professional, and always careful about where she went. But that night, her last delivery ever, the GPS led her astray. It was a quiet, misty evening when Jenny pulled up to the wrong address, a house on the outskirts of town. It looked unassuming, though a little eerie. The lights were dim, and the front yard was overgrown with weeds. The GPS had insisted this was the right spot, so she grabbed the bag of food, stepped out of her car, and walked up to the door. She knocked twice. No answer. She was about to leave the food on the porch when the door creaked open just slightly. A man stood in the shadows, his face barely visible. "Thanks for the food," he said in a gravelly voice, reaching out to take the bag. Jenny hesitated. Something about his tone unsettled her, but she brushed it off as fatigue. "Have a good night," she said with a polite smile, and turned to leave. Before she could step off the porch, the man grabbed her wrist with alarming force and yanked her inside. The door slammed shut, silencing her screams before they could reach the empty street. Jenny's disappearance baffled everyone. Her friends and family reported her missing the next day when she failed to return home. But there were no immediate leads. Her phone had been shut off, and her car was nowhere to be found. Flyers went up around town, and volunteers searched nearby woods, rivers, and abandoned buildings. The police eventually scaled back their efforts, leaving her case cold. Months turned into years. Jenny's face became just another picture on a bulletin board of unsolved disappearances. Her family held vigils and pleaded for answers, but nothing ever came. 2 years later, on a rainy afternoon, a new DoorDash driver named Tyler arrived at the same neighborhood. He was delivering to a nearby house when he noticed something strange in the driveway of an abandoned home. A dark green sedan hidden under a dusty tarp in the garage. Something about the car felt familiar. After his delivery, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling. He pulled up an old news article about Jenny's disappearance, which featured a photo of her car. His heart raced. It was the same make, model, and color. He called the police. When officers arrived, they broke into the garage and confirmed it. The car belonged to Jenny. Inside, they found her phone, her purse, and other personal belongings. Investigators searched the house next. It was completely empty, as if whoever had lived there had vanished overnight. But in the basement, they found evidence of something far more sinister. A steel chair bolted to the floor, chains and bloodstains that had seeped deep into the concrete. Forensic analysis confirmed the worst. The blood belonged to Jenny. She had been tortured and killed in that basement. Despite this breakthrough, the trail went cold again. The man who had abducted Jenny was gone, leaving no trace of his identity. Neighbors reported that the house had been empty for years, though one person mentioned a reclusive man who had moved in briefly before disappearing without a word. The house was boarded up and condemned, but it became the stuff of local legend. People whispered about the man who had killed Jenny, wondering if he was still in town, lurking in the shadows, or if he had moved on to claim more victims elsewhere. To this day, Jenny's killer has never been found. The house remains abandoned, a haunting reminder of her tragic fate and the dark secrets that can hide in plain sight.